Welcome back to the second part of the series about my trip to North Korea. In the first part I covered how I got into the country, what my group saw in the countryside of the DPRK and how we were welcomed in Pyongyang. In the second part I will talk about our first day in which we visited various landmarks around the capital of the Hermit Kingdom. After a good night's sleep, we had breakfast before starting the program for that day. Hotel is quite large and has around 40 floors. It is built in an unusual triangular shape and all the floors and corridors are identical. Even after a couple of days, it was still difficult to orient yourself and find your room. Sometimes I wondered if that was done intentionally. Despite the size of the hotel, there were very few guests beside us and we only saw them during breakfasts. In total, we occupied only 2 floors of the hotel. Other floors were in complete darkness or probably used for other purposes. Some rumors even said that Otto Warmbier was maybe kept on the 13th floor of this hotel while being detained by the local authorities. He was an American tourist who unfortunately became famous after being detained by the authorities of North Korea. He was charged for subversion and that he allegedly stole some propaganda posters during his visit. He was released about a year later in a vegetative state. Unfortunately, he died soon after that. Luckily, I can say that none of us from our tour had any such trouble during our stay. We behaved as they asked from us and they treated us very well. Also, there were no Americans in our group. First trip of the first day was dedicated to exploring Pyongyang and we started with the Mangyongdae Hill. It is a hill located in the middle of the city and is easily recognizable by large statues on the square at the top. Those are huge bronze statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Kim Il-sung still holds the title of Eternal President despite passing away in 1994. The Soviet Union helped him become the leader of the country after it was founded in 1948. He is the father of Kim Jong-il, who is also known as Dear Leader or the General, who ruled the country for 17 years until his death. His son Kim Jong-un is known as the Supreme Leader and has ruled the country since 2011. We stopped at the main parking area and saw other buses parked around. They brought a lot of Koreans here. Miss Lee told us that those are all Korean tourists who come to see the statues of beloved leaders and to bow to them. She also told us that most of the citizens of Pyongyang regularly come here to see the statues. Many of them every day before going to work and also when returning home. We imagined that it would be very crowded here with so many people coming regularly. Luckily, it seems that they have solved that problem as the area was mostly empty every time we passed it during the next few days. It was here where we started noticing colorful kiosks which we later saw everywhere. Most of them had their windows covered, but the majority of the working ones were in fact flower shops. One of them was open and we could buy flowers to lay under the feet of the statues. We walked up the impeccably clean stairs and saw a large group of people bowing to the statues. We had to wait for our turn. After we bowed to the president and the general and laid the flowers we had bought, a photographer appeared. Our guides explained to us that he can take a group picture, so we gathered for the photo opportunity. While taking the pictures ourselves, we needed to follow instructions. It is not allowed to imitate the poses of the statues or cut a part of them off the photos. While we took that minute to pose for the picture, the flowers we laid down had already vanished. After the photo opportunity, the guides showed us to the monument of Cholima. It is a mythical winged horse jumping through the air. They explained that Kim Il-sung ordered it to be built. It represents the unbreakable spirit of Korea and the rebuilding of the city and the country after the Korean War. The war was frequently mentioned during our days in North Korea. They were still very resentful of the Japanese. They occupied the whole peninsula at the beginning of the 20th century and they were very cruel occupiers. They are also very resentful of the Americans. DPRK's version of the Korean War tells a different story than the one I was taught. They claim that South Korea, backed by the US forces, launched a surprise attack and wanted to annihilate North Korea. After a lot of heroic fighting and sacrifices, North Korea prevailed. All of that was thanks to the leadership of Kim Il-sung. The Chinese army, which actually pushed back the UN forces, was mentioned only once. When we passed the monument of the Korean-Chinese friendship in the center of the city, Miss Lee mentioned that China sent many of their sons to help Korea in its fight. While we were driving away from the Monument Hill, she also told us another anecdote about Korea and Korean people.
In 1976, many South Korean journalists visited Pyongyang city. At the time, one day they visited the statue, the Mangyongdae monument, and they saw some pupils, some students cleaning around the statue. And one journalist from the group asked a girl. That girl was about 9 years old. That girl was cleaning around the statue. And the journalist asked her, "Do you know about the weight of the statue? How heavy the statue is?" And that young girl answered, "The statue is as heavy as all Korean people's hearts together." It was the answer. So through this, we can know that how the Korean people are loyal to our leaders.
Later that morning, our itinerary stated that we will visit the International Friendship Exhibition. It is a museum located to the north in the countryside. The exhibition consists of huge holes dug into a mountain and reinforced to withstand a nuclear strike. Inside, gifts given to Kim Il-sung by international politicians, generally communist ones, are exhibited. You can see Stalin's armored trains and even some armchairs gifted to the eternal president by the president of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito. It should show how beloved the leaders of North Korea are internationally. The location is exhibited in great detail in the comic book Pyongyang, The Journey in North Korea. It is a great book by a cartoon illustrator Guy Delisle, who spent a couple of months living and working in North Korea. In this comic, he portrayed everyday situations he encountered and local procedures he had to tackle. Unfortunately, we were not able to visit the exhibition. Due to heavy rains, roads were not safe in the countryside and they had to cancel the trip. Instead, they took us to see the National Gift Exhibition House. It is located on the outskirts of Pyongyang and holds the collection of gifts given to the leaders of North Korea by Korean people from North and South. It is not allowed to take photos inside, so I cannot show you what we saw there. It was a regular procedure that we got a local guide in each museum. However, usually they didn't speak English and one of our guides had to translate what they were explaining. Local guides were usually women dressed in traditional Korean clothing. In the National Gift Exhibition House, we saw various wooden gifts supposedly carved by soldiers and gifted to the president and the general. We saw the most interesting thing in the corner of one of the larger halls. I managed to find a picture of it on the internet and you can see it too. Named The Journey of Kim Jong-il Between Two Mountains, it is a large porcelain oval plate standing upright on a pedestal. On one side there is a painting of Kim Jong-il riding a tiger on the slopes of a snowy mountain. On the other, he is standing in the snow and smiling while wearing traditional armor. Our guides continued through the halls, but we stayed glued around that particular exhibit until they called us. After the exhibition, we went to see the village of Mangyongdaye, a birthplace of Kim Il-sung. It is also located on the outskirts of Pyongyang. They showed us a couple of cottages where the eternal president was born and lived with his family. There was a group of Koreans on their own visit and we had to wait. They were all very well dressed and dead serious. After listening to what the local guide had to say, they laid down the plastic flowers in complete silence and disappeared. The guide showed us the humble home of the future eternal president and also his perilous trips to school. All that hardship prepared him to be such a great leader. The whole village was preserved as a national monument. We asked where the rest of the village was, as we only saw those few cottages. They said the village was moved while they were making this memorial park, and we moved on as well. After we were done with our visit, there was no one else in the whole park. During the visit to this museum, we also noticed that they started separating us for the visits to some landmarks. The program was organized in such a way that our two groups were rarely together in the same location. While we were in the exhibition house, the other group visited the village, and now we switched. Each of our groups of 20 people visited the attractions on their own, and we usually met only for the meals. After the village, we went to have lunch next to an amusement park, which obviously wasn't operating. Every day we had lunch and dinner in another restaurant. Every time we came to any of the restaurants, staff greeted us with huge smiles and spontaneously sang the "We Are Glad" song. Meals were more or less the same every time, a lot of micro portions. Many of the people from our group took the Lupine travel advice and brought some sweets with them. Desserts were not a thing in North Korea. Next part of the tour was the trip through the Pyongyang metro. The bus stopped next to the station and we went in. Pyongyang boasts the deepest metro in the world. Train lines are situated 100 meters under the ground. They also double as fallout shelters. Stations are illustrated by smiling pictures of the dear leader and eternal president. There are also murals of workers, nature and infrastructure projects. Trains are old East German ones which operated in East Berlin. Before, they used to take all the foreigners just between two subway stations. Because of that, insinuations arose that only two subway stations actually exist. Later, they expanded the tour and we were going to see 4 stations in total. Military songs were playing on speakers, and there were pictures of the president and the general in each car. Our groups boarded a separate train car and we went to the other station. We boarded another train. At that time we mixed with local commuters. There were quite a lot of people riding at that time, and most of them were indifferent about us. We exited at the next station and waited for another train. When we arrived at the last station, it seemed that some of our group got lost in the rush hour. Our guides lined us up at the station to see who was missing. They were very worried about where they were and if they got lost. Luckily, the rest of the group arrived in about a minute with the next train. After leaving the subway, we found ourselves next to the Arch of Triumph, which commemorates the Korean resistance to Japan. It glorifies the role of Kim Il-sung in the struggle against the occupiers and was inaugurated on his 70th birthday. It consists of 25,500 granite blocks, each representing a day in the life of the eternal president. Next to it, the huge Kim Il-sung Stadium is located. Miss Lee explained to us that it was built on a place where Kim Il-sung had one of his rallies. He held a speech there for the people of Pyongyang and enticed them to rise against the Japanese oppressors. Next stop was the Victorius Fatherland Liberation War Museum, or how the Korean War is known in the DPRK. We parked at the entrance to the huge avenue which leads to the main building. All around there are massive walls and statues which tower over the visitors. This is a new part of the museum which was opened recently next to the old museum. On the left and right of the avenue, equipment from the war is exhibited. On the left, Korean planes, tanks and other equipment is displayed. We went to the right to see the destroyed American equipment. They also showed us bombs supposedly filled with explosives and insects and spiders which were carrying diseases. We guessed that if there were any explosives in the bombs, nothing inside could have survived to spread the germs. They didn't elaborate on it anymore and we moved on. In front of the building there is a massive statue titled Victory, made from bronze. Its height is symbolic. The pedestal is 7 meters high and the monument itself another 27 meters. They celebrate the 27th of July as Victory Day, although the peace was never signed, only an armistice. Museum is located next to the river and we went to see the ship which is docked there. It is the famous Pueblo, an American spy ship. North Korea captured it in 1968 and promotes it as a war trophy. We explored the corridors of the ship and saw battle damage. They set us down in the mess hall and we watched a black and white movie about the incident. The boat was captured on the eastern side of the country. Due to its geography, the North Korean Navy is divided into two sections which cannot support each other. We asked how they got the ship around the peninsula without anyone interfering. We did not get the answer. The crew of the ship was released after a lot of negotiations. DPRK still promotes the capture of the ship as a huge win for their leadership and army. They see it as a proof of how strong their country is, as the USA had to sign a written apology to them. After the ship, the guide from the museum joined us and we went inside. We entered massive hallways made from marble and covered with luxurious carpets. Shiny chandeliers decorated with red stars were hanging from the ceiling. Everything was spotlessly clean, and in the middle was a statue of Kim Jong-un, or at least we thought so. It turned out it was actually his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, in his younger days in military uniform. Our guides took us through the halls detailing every aspect of the war, from the unprovoked American attack on one Sunday morning to the international support of the DPRK's leadership. They showed us reconstructions of partisan villages covered in snow. There is a gallery dedicated to American defeat and the shamed American soldiers. They also showed us many examples of how the guidance of Kim Il-sung proved decisive in achieving victory. He single-handedly invented guerrilla warfare and anti-aircraft defense. At the end, there is a spectacular 360-degree panorama of the Battle of Taejon. We sat on the circular seats in the middle while the scenery rotated around us. They explained how they beat back the American aggressors and the troops of the puppet South Korean government. The museum is dedicated to Kim Il-sung and his brilliant leadership in the war. However, Kim Jong-il also wasn't excluded. At the end, there is also an added part about his contributions in the view of his Songun military doctrine. Probably they will also add the contributions of Kim Jong-un when the time comes. Last part of the visit was dedicated to the shop. We found a lot of different publications, including the book about the museum. It is the source of the photographs you just saw, as we weren't allowed to take photos inside. When we exited back to the parking lot, in the background we saw the huge Ryugyong hotel towering over us. Hotel is listed as one of the highest in the world, even thought it was never finished. Inside it is still a barren maze of concrete halls. It should have been finished in 1992, but the issues with construction and the collapse of the Soviet Union stopped it. For a long time it looked like this, and later they covered it with glass panels. It started to get dark when we were taken to the city's main library, or the Grand People's Study House. It is a majestic structure located next to the Kim Il-sung Square in the center of the city. This building is also massive in size and decorated with marble and crystal. Right in the entrance hall there is a massive statue of Kim Il-sung sitting in an armchair. Our guides explained that he personally gave the guidance for the building to be built here to provide the people of Korea with wisdom. Before the end of our trip through the DPRK, we learned that either he, his son, or his grandson gave their guidance for every single, more or less important building to be constructed in the country. Each of the buildings and institutions we visited had a commemorative picture or statue at the entrance, to which we bowed after we entered. Our local guide took us through the halls and we saw people studying in the classrooms. Lee said that anyone can come here and educate themselves or learn some new skills. We were shown the tables they were using. Our guide pointed out that their angle could be adjusted, therefore making studying easier. Kim Jong-il personally designed those desks. We entered into another classroom where, supposedly, English class was going on. In our group we had a guy from England who was an actual English teacher. Our guide encouraged him to step forward and address the classroom.
Much enjoyed our time in Pyongyang, and this is a very, very beautiful, beautiful city. So would anybody like to ask me any questions? Okay, so thank you and enjoy the rest of your class. Okay, goodbye.
Nobody spoke a word, so we moved on. We saw a computer room with some of the computers being used. We noticed that they were still running Windows XP. In the classroom there were also some cassette decks and some people were trying to listen music on them. In another classroom we were shown foreign books they had in their collection. The lady working at the desk boasted that they have over 100,000 different books and about 30% of that was in foreign languages, mostly in English. She also boasted that they have a trolley system for delivering the books from central storage. She entered some keys in her computer to order the books. Practically instantaneously, almost as it was prepared in advance, a trolley was catapulted through the opening in the wall behind her. On it there were some random books in English. She showed us the complete encyclopedia of chicken, neonatal emergencies, Huckleberry Finn and a book written in Arabic. We asked our companion from Saudi Arabia to translate it and he said it was a recipe book about vegetables. It was a very weird selection of books. Last part of the visit to the library was to another shop on the top floor of the building. They had some books there, but we saw they also have music CDs. All of them were North Korean bands, mostly from the Pochombo electronic ensemble. You could say that it was NK pop. I asked the lady working in the shop if they had the CD with the song We Are Glad, the song they sang to us in every restaurant. She found the CD and said that it is there. Other people from the group were also thrilled by this and we bought a couple of CDs with other songs like We Cannot Live Apart from His Bosom, Comrades Let Us Sing the Love or He Does Not Know Maybe. Outside it was dark already and they took us to another souvenir shop in the downtown of the city. It wasn't a big shop and after 40 and more of us entered, it became quite crowded. After I bought a couple of things, I said that I will wait outside. The closest of the guides, Mr. Kim, wasn't thrilled with this and he came with me. We were standing on the sidewalk in front of the entrance to the store. He asked me where I am from. I replied, from Croatia. Ah, Croatia, yes, football. Modric, great player, Rakitic, Barcelona number 4, he replied by naming famous Croatian footballers. I said to him that it is very beautiful and that he should visit sometime. On that he didn't give any concrete answer. He said that it was cold and that we should go back inside. I said that I was okay and would wait outside. He continued to watch me and I added, I promise I won't go anywhere. He still looked at me and at the doors and said, okay, but don't go far, and went in. He continued to watch me through the glass. I stood alone on the sidewalk and watched the locals walking around me. They were dressed nicely, nothing too fancy, no brands or anything, but the clothes seemed warm and appropriate for the time of the year. They ignored me and minded their own business. After the shop, we went to have dinner in a restaurant somewhere in the city. Again, the restaurant looked like a Balkan wedding salon, and we were the only guests and the only people they were expecting. In all the restaurants, if there were a total of 43 of us, exactly 43 chairs and 43 plates and cutlery sets were prepared. Our hostesses also sang the We Are Glad song. Later, during dinner, a screen in the background was showing a concert of a military band. They were singing glorious marching songs in Korean. Later, when I turned on the TV in my hotel room, I figured out that it was just a regular TV program. In the introduction letter for the tour, Lupine Travel instructed us that it is prudent to bring some small gifts for the guides. In the duty-free shop at the airport in Vienna, I bought a small cosmetics set for the ladies and a carton of Marlboro for the gentlemen guides. That evening, when we returned to the hotel, I gave it to Miss Lee for her to distribute it as she saw fit. She was very happy, and I got the feeling the guides looked on me a bit more favorably during the rest of the stay. Most of the group gathered tips on the last evening before our departure. That evening was an opportunity to better explore our hotel. There were different amenities at our disposal. There was a swimming pool, bowling lane, billiard room, a couple of shops, and you could even get a haircut in the hotel. They also had a little post office. Here you could use the phones to call internationally, buy stamps, send letters, and even use the computers. Wi-Fi is non-existent in North Korea, or at least it was at that time. We all skipped the computers, but most of us used the phone once a day to call our families at home. The price was around €2 per minute, and my family said that my phone call came from a different number each time I called. My grandfather gave me the habit of sending postcards every time I travel. I asked the ladies working in the post office to show me their selection of postcards. When I would pick one out, they would immediately store all the rest. I kept asking them for more and in the end told them to leave all of them out as I need about 40 of them. They started giggling and I told them that they were having more fun than me. They immediately got very serious again. As we noticed on our tours through the city and the countryside, there were a lot of shops available to us. It seemed that they figured out that Western tourists will buy anything as long as it is from North Korea. We found a large variety of souvenirs. T-shirts, flags, books, tea which cures cancer, mugs. As an avid collector of North Korean materials, I found a lot of interesting stuff there. In one of the shops in our hotel, I even saw a dorina, a chocolate from my country. I couldn't believe they would have it just like that, and I still can't shake the feeling that it was planted there.